guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called Obvious Signs to Identify an American in the Crowd According to Non-Americans. So this is probably going to be funny. I don't know if people are going to feel this is like, oh, I'm feeling like a little bit called out by this. I don't really know, because it's probably gonna be like, I don't want to anticipate, but I think it's gonna be like a little offensive things. I don't know, because I think usually, you know, speaking like, well, how do people like identify an American? Like it's like identify like the tourist, something of the sort, and it's usually maybe not in a bad way. Sometimes it's a little offensive, like the one like, oh, you identify a tourist because it's like they're carrying an umbrella, for instance, and in this place, like in the city, like everyone just like withstands like the rain and the cold, so that's what you would know, like, oh, that's a tourist. Or they are wearing gloves. That's, I think, really like another. It's like, oh, they're wearing gloves. No one here uses gloves. Is that because they're cold? So, you know, those like little things. Hopefully, I get, but I know how offensive it's, because this can get pretty offensive. So I don't know how offensive it's gonna be, or it's just gonna be like funny and that's it. I don't know, but let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe. Okay, in Europe, being afraid to go to the ER or doctors, anticipating a massive bill even after you try to convince them that's basically free. So this one's quite sad, but I can see, like, again, put yourself in like in their shoes. Like if you've been told like forever, and you probably have gotten in the past like this ginormous bills of just like they charged me like but $2,000 just for like, I don't know, a 5-minute ambulance ride. You would also be quite like, you know, shocked and traumatized by this whole situation. So you would have to ask several times, are you sure this is free, or that I only have to pay €5? Like, again, you would really need to be sure. An inordinate amount of small talk, unprompted. Okay, this is funny, but it's like, it fosters community, and it fosters like friendship. When I lived in Europe, people said only Americans eat while walking. I'd be eating a bagel or something on the way to work or class, and multiple people asked if I was American, LOL. Okay, this one's funny because, yes, I think someone has mentioned this before, but it's like, oh, I hadn't realized. But it's like, it's true, right? Because I think Americans tend to be, like, if you're eating something, I think you would, like, sit down and, like, actually eat, right? I think that's, like, usually the case. Although it's like, well, but what if I'm in a hurry? Like, I'm running late and I'm hungry. Like, shouldn't I just be, you know, like, eating? But also, I have questions. Like, is it, like, you can, maybe, like, if they're drinking coffee, like, can they drink their coffee, like, on the go? Or that's how you also identify, like, oh, they're American because they're having their coffee while walking? Or is just food in general, as in, like, they're eating a sandwich or whatever, and people are like, oh, you know, they can't sit around and actually, like, enjoy their meal. I would guess that's what they're thinking. It's like, wow, poor thing, like, they can't just, like, sit and enjoy it. It's like, no, I'm sorry, but I'm running late. Like, it's not just about enjoyment. It's just like the fact that I'm sorry, again, I'm running late. Or maybe like if they're having ice cream, is it normal for Europeans to just like walk around eating ice cream? Or like that's also how they say like, oh, it's an American because they're eating ice cream like just by walking. I have like, what's accepted and what isn't actually. I think I'm very, very interested to find out. The accent usually gives it away. Well, yes, of course, that's gonna come through. Just as you would know, if someone is like from the UK or whatever other country, he's like, yes, the accent usually is a dead giveaway. Having the expectation public toilets are free. Oh yes, because in Europe you have to pay, right? So yes, that's also, I think, yes, in the US it wouldn't have occurred to me to have, you know, you don't pay for that. That's crazy to me. Like, actually, I can understand, sort of, I think, yes, because it's like, it's not something that's like so weird to me, because I know they do it differently. But if I didn't know that, it would be, yes, of course, it's like mind-blowing. Like, can't you just like let me use your bathroom? That's crazy. Like, do I have to pay for this? Okay, this was a few years ago, but my dad always said if they wear white tennis shoes and laugh in public, they are from the US. Everyone we ever stopped to ask ended up being American. We could spot them across the plaza. Wait, so is it the white tennis shoes? Okay, white sneakers, and they're laughing in public. Where were they? And I don't think this is true. Just I don't think this is true. Just because maybe the white sneakers, but I don't know, like everyone uses white sneakers. Like that's not like such a like an identifying thing. But the one that's like tripping me a little bit is the one that they're laughing in public, because it's like, oh come on, like Europeans also laugh in public, so get out of here with this. From what I've been told by European friends and travelers, are complete and utter lack of an indoor voice. Okay, yeah, because you're constantly like yelling. I think your volume is a little high. Is that it? That can be true actually. Athleisure clothing, yes, they use their leggings and their Crocs for just daily lives, and it's not, and that's usually not the case. Again, for like you have to. There's like it feels like you're giving up on life. Like please dress up a little bit. When eating, we switched the knife to our right hand for cutting. Yes, of course. I went on a trip to Europe once to meet an old online friend who pointed this out to me. And sure enough, no one else in the restaurant did this. Now it's obvious, but before that, I'd never have given it a second thought. But we switched enough to our right for cutting. Isn't this how it should be? Hold on, what? I need this explained like on 5. That's not normal. If you're right-handed, yes, of course you're gonna use the knife. Like you wouldn't use it to like. I'm not cutting with my left hand because I'm unless that you're a lefty. That's a big. Now I'm like, oh my god, this is like. I need to know. I've never heard of this before, and now I'm super curious, and also I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna be so self-conscious about this. As an American who has lived overseas, I could immediately pick out Americans in a crowd by how they pronounce the letter R. It's such a hard sound; it sticks out like a sore thumb. The R, well, but like in what situation? Like transit, you're not saying like transit. I don't know. Maybe I think it depends because of what place abroad you're actually visiting. Like, is it the UK? Is it Germany? Like, everyone pronounces R's different, right? Like, it's an R, so it's hard. It's like, you're using the hard R. It's like, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, they measure things in inches and yards and talk about the weather in Fahrenheit. Yes, of course. The rest of the world uses Celsius and kilometers and meters and centimeters. So, yes, of course. Tactical sunglasses. This is like a fashion crime. Like they are not, I don't know. I think they are not very, like, they're not nice. An Italian told me that Americans walk confidently in the wrong direction. That's because they're very arrogant. It's all like, I'm not asking for directions, but I don't know, maybe there are some Europeans that also are very like, I'm confident. Like maybe if you put them in, I don't know, Des Moines or whatever place in the middle of like, they're stranded in the middle of the US, maybe they wouldn't ask for directions because maybe they are very arrogant as well. I don't know, maybe it just depends on the person. Their communication skills tend to be above average, I have found. Well, at least in Australia when I meet them. Above average, well, but that's a good thing. But in what way? Like, in what capacity? Like, their communication because they're like talkers? Just because it's like they're talking very loudly. So maybe that's like they have better communication, or maybe it's just because they insist on doing a lot of talking, and maybe that's what makes you good at communicating, right? Because you're very like, I want to know more. I want to talk to you. I'm constantly communicating, and maybe that's what it is. Or maybe in Australia they're maybe a little bit more reserved, and maybe that's why they believe like, well, they're above average in communications. Americans compared to Australians. I don't know. I don't think I've ever met an Australian person before. 3 fingers versus 2 fingers and 1 thumb. Oh, that's this and this, right? Yes, I would go like this. My ex is Romanian, and she would say our sense of entitlement. I agree. A lot of Americans, again, not all of them, but tons of them. And I think like there's a lot of like, there's a certain specific type of American that's like very entitled. And I'm not talking about like, oh, they think like the US is, the greatest country on earth. Not necessarily, but there's like a place of like, they feel, especially I think in customer service, they feel like they should be, like you should treat me incredible, and you should treat me like incredibly well because it's not just like I deserve it just because I have to, and that's what you always like the customer is always right. So I think it's more about like entitlement of like that whole, you have to like, I'm paying you, and that's why you have to like agree with everything basically. So I think maybe this is where it's going, and I would definitely, I agree. Again, not everyone, but a lot of them, definitely. They want ice in their water. isn't that common in other places. I think it just depends on the person as well. Some people really do like their water ice cold, but some of them no. According to the CIA, when training to be a spy, you have to unlearn how to lean. Americans tend to lean on things when standing still. Lean on like on a wall? That could be something. Extremely white bleached teeth. Well, depends, because if they have money, absolutely, and they can get like veneers and they can get like a treatment like, you know, it whitens your teeth, and you know, it depends, because I think actually I would say the opposite, because a lot of people, again, because they don't really have like good health care, so they don't have health care, like their teeth are actually like messed up because I don't have the money to pay for actual health care. So I think it depends. Like if you're, you know, if you're in a higher, like in the higher society and people have money, absolutely. Like I'm gonna fix my teeth, but not ever. But I think it's less common in that. I will give them, like, because it's true. I think in Europe that tends to be a little bit less common. People they don't really care about having like this blinding white teeth. Otherwise, like it doesn't matter. They can have money, but they're not gonna do that, because it's like, no, teeth are teeth. Like they shouldn't be like perfectly white. Like they shouldn't appear to be like chiclets. Like it's okay. Do not in all contexts, but Americans in Europe stand out with their ceaseless optimism and enthusiasm. Depends, again, depends on the person, but I think it's more like a general situation. When they claim to be an 8th German, 8th Irish, 1/16 Scottish, 1/16 Spanish, three quarters French and German, yes. It's all about like the people that take like this like ancestry tests, and they're like, oh, you know, it breaks it down. You're like, oh, you know, I'm 50% British, and 10% whatever, and 5% Asian, and 1% black. And then you start, well, not black, you're 1% Nigerian. And then like people, they sort of want to like say when they meet someone from that country, it's like, oh, don't you know, I am Nigerian. And obviously people like, if people from Nigeria are going to be like, where were you born? It's like, no, I wasn't born there. My family is not from there, but you know, I'm like 1% Nigerian. It's like, you wouldn't go around like, do not call yourself Nigerian, or do not call yourself Austrian or German if you weren't born there. I think actually I believe the US is probably the only place that does this. Is, you know, they actually, like, when they take these tests, they just automatically believe that gives them like right to call themselves from that particular country. He's like, yes, you know, I am Portuguese. He's like, well, why would you call yourself Portuguese? Oh, because I'm 10% Portuguese. And it's like, well, were you aware of this before taking this test? Like, do you have any cultural ties to this country? And it's like, well, no, probably they didn't even know that. Or maybe it's just like, oh yeah, my great grandparents came 300 years ago. And it's like, well, yeah, that doesn't really count. And that's why people get annoyed, because it's like, no, do not call yourself from a country unless you were actually born there, or maybe you have some cultural ties. Maybe your parents were born there. And even then, like, it's a stretch, because people are going to be like, well, yeah, your parents are, your parents are Swiss. You're not Swiss. You're American, but you are from Swiss descent, which I think they find it so hard. I don't know why. I think it's just like, they want to be seen as like something else, maybe? I don't know. It's crazy. Okay, let's move on. Getting on a first name basis with someone as soon as you meet them. Americans are a lot more informal compared to some other nations, especially with how you address people. Is that a thing about like being young and versus like maybe a certain generation? Because I think like younger people do not really care about, like, I don't know, when you meet someone. Again, I don't know, I'm trying to think, but it's like if you're meeting like maybe an adult that's like, I don't know, over like 60 or 70, I think maybe there's like a sense of respect. Like maybe you wouldn't call them by their first name. But if you're meeting someone that's like around your age, or even just like 1 or 2 generations, like, you can see they're young. They're not like, oh, they're not 80, but maybe they're like 60s, or they're in their 60s or in their 70s. Like they're still young. Maybe you just like, you would call them like, whoa, your name's Marie. Well, okay, hello, Marie. Like, I don't know. I think maybe it's just like a younger generation thing, but I think probably people that are today, like in this day and age, they're in their 70s. Maybe there's a sense of respect and they wouldn't actually refer to anyone like by their last name or by a little of like, oh, a Mrs. or a Mr. So maybe I'm wondering if that's, again, it's like a gap in generations, because I think younger people in general tend to be like more formal with each other and with other people. I think maybe they just like feel I have to like respect maybe someone else that's like a grandparent, but like beyond that, I'm not, and it's not even, it's silly. Like it's not, I don't even know why I mentioned respect, because I think it's not about respect. Maybe in some other cultures, and if some other cultures do have this, I was like, no, you wouldn't, it's disrespectful for you to call me by my first name. Oh, well, okay, then yes, of course, like if that's a cultural thing, obviously that's a separate matter. But if they're, if there's not a cultural thing, it's like, what does having to do? Like, I don't respect you less because I'm talking to you in your given name. I would say that's actually like friendlier, because if you're like, there's like a sense of distance, so if you're referring to them by their last name. So that's just me. It's like, I wouldn't want to like offend anyone, but I would be like, I'm calling you by your first name because it's like, it's friendlier. I don't know. That's just me. Not caring what I wear or look like when I go out. I heard recently that Europeans do not go out of their house in their pajamas. Not sure if that's true or not, but it seems like it would be an American thing to not care if you look like, yes. I think that's the case. I think a lot of Europeans do not go around in their pajamas. I think that's a very American thing. Like, that's true. They don't know 24-hour clock or meters, or for the first point, they call it military time. Yes, it's military time. That's so true. I would refer to it as well as military time. Because otherwise, if it's, the other one, you would go like, that's 1 p.m. or 1 a.m. But if you're doing the whole like 13, 14 hours, 50 hours, that's military. So I'm guilty of this. I think they are generally friendly people, easy to talk to, accessible, and welcoming. Would love to visit America. There's something quite old-fashioned about the time I am speaking about, hospitable, warm, and helpful. Yes, it's true. I think that's the thing about, they're very charitable, and especially, again, like people from the South tend to be like, that plus like 50 times. But I think it's because in Europe they're probably more reserved, so again you would feel like, oh, everyone's super friendly here. How's your day going, or how are you doing, in completely random circumstances? Oh, because they're trying to fill a silence, or they're trying to do a small talk to be seen as friendly. If they introduce themselves with the state that they're from instead of just saying USA, that's my European friends always say. That's what my European friends always say. It's true. I think when you, because if you're from probably a more unknown country, unknown as in not unknown to you, but it's like, oh, I'm from a smaller country. So you probably wouldn't go around saying people, oh, I'm from Tessin. I don't know, like a smaller town. Like you wouldn't go around saying those things. You would go and say, oh, I am from Germany. So it's like, oh, okay, maybe someone like wants to know, you would actually like tell them, oh, okay, I'm from this place and whatever. But because the US takes like such a big cultural part of our world and our our planet, that's why people would say like, oh, I'm from LA. It's like, okay, well, you're an American, but you should probably just go around and say, hey, I'm an American. And if people ask you, then you'll be like, oh yes, I'm from Florida, or I'm from Orlando, whatever. While visiting Turkey, I was told that I looked American because I was sitting with one leg across the other and the bottom of my shoe was exposed. Apparently it's rude. What? Wait, is it Turkey? Hold on. Rude as in like you're crossing your legs, and that's an American thing. Well, maybe in Turkey specifically, not an American thing. Well, maybe no, yet because I went to Americans. I would think maybe if that's apparently not done there by Turkish people, I would think, oh, they're a tourist. But I wouldn't jump around saying, oh, they're an American. They don't. It's not done. I don't know. That's crazy. People cross their legs all the time. I refuse to believe that as well. I don't know. A smile on their face for no particular reason. Being friendly or encouraging even to strangers. But that's nice. Like, I think you should be encouraging and you should be friendlier and nicer to strangers in general. That's just me. Like, you would, again, like if you have the opportunity to make someone say a little better because you don't really know what they're going through, like that's a good thing. So maybe they're not there. Again, it's a good thing. Maybe they're not passing judgment on it, but I think that's a really good quality to have. Ask, so what do you do right after meeting someone? Oh, because it's a job. It's not a foul power or anything, just something that seems very important to Americans and Canadians as well. Yes, they go like the first question after meeting them is like, what do you do for your job? Which I think Europeans tend to be a little bit more like, my job is not like my defining trait or personality. It's just my job. And I think for Americans and apparently like Canadians as well, even though again, it depends, it's more about like it's so tied into like your whole persona that you have to like you feel like you have to ask them like, hey, so what do you do for your job? Because obviously it's very important for them. An Italian told me that they could tell I was American because I would wear my sunglasses on the top of my head when I wasn't using them. What? That's an American thing? Italians don't do that? News to me. How much personal space they give themselves. Americans like at least an arm length. I would say that's polite. I wouldn't come around and like be like so close to someone that I just met, because it's like, no, personal space is a thing. Like I wouldn't want to come across as rude and being all like up in your face. Like I don't know you. Being able to talk about racism and not sweep it under the rug. Wow, this one, I'm wondering which country like this is coming from, because well, you know, that's also a good thing. They smile at strangers. That's gotta be like a European thing, because again, they're reserved, so I don't think they're smiling to people like on the street. Wearing shorts and a hoodie when it's less than 32 degrees Fahrenheit outside. I don't know how many like Fahrenheit that is. No agree, no idea. It could be 50, 30 or minus, I don't know. Wearing outside shoes in their house. That depends as well on the country, because I think this is very, like certainly I think it's definitely more common in places that I think they get snow, because it gets muddy and it gets like really disgusting and you're not like, you know, you're not having mud trucks all over your house. So that's I think what they mean, like outside shoes. Like you wouldn't, it's like you have wellies on, like your Wellingtons. Like if you live in a place or you're coming from a place that has a lot of mud, I'm not wearing my wellies under like in my house, right? I'm taking them out in the entrance. So maybe that's the case. Maybe this is what this means, but it could be something else. Using month, day, and year. This is completely like, I wholeheartedly agree. I've never understood this, because to me, my logic says, especially if you're coming from like the years to last, like you have to go from minor to like macro. So how should it start? We're in the day, which is like the more specific, then it's the month, and then it's the year. Switching around month and day, like that doesn't make any sense. Like that doesn't make any sense to me, like whatsoever. It's just like, it's anti-natural. Like it's not, it goes against nature and it defies logic. That's all I'm gonna say about that, because I don't understand it either, and it shouldn't be like that. They open the door for the people behind them. Do Europeans or other people do not do this? That's so rude to me. Like if I'm standing, like I would think that's super impolite. Not wearing Speedos at the beach, and for this I like to think American men. The Speedos, again, it just depends. I think men of a certain age, like they're like less likely to wear Speedos, and you know they're using like their swim shorts and their swim trunks, but more probably I would guess like older men, they use their Speedos because they're not going to be seen if like they're not wearing swim trunks. I mean, maybe, but I think it's not that common. They're wondering why everyone is speaking German in Germany. I wish I was making that up. See, this is sad. This is bad American. They ask for ranch. Don't they have like ranch in other places? Is that an American thing? I've never seen it. You know, I don't really know, like on your pizza, but apparently there's an American thing. Assuming something's about America or on the internet because it isn't declared otherwise. That's so true. Because America is the center of the universe, right? So why would I think it's somewhere else? Y'all, this is interesting, because I think this is, you know, usually it's starting to sound like you will say like, oh y'all, but I think it has spread out, and I think other cities and other people are doing it in general. It is like a matter of speaking. I think you will go, well, y'all, yeah, it just depends. I think I'm trying to think there's an equivalent, but it's like you guys. I think you guys is more like, it could be the equivalent to this. Definitely the wit. I'm Asian and I've talked to a lot of Americans, and one thing I've noticed about them is their sense of humor. Oh, that's good. I also watch a lot of American movies and have seen many humorous videos and memes from them, which is one of my favorite things ever. LOL, they're hilarious. Okay, that's good. It's like one positive thing, their sense of humor, well, their wit. That's a good thing. Although maybe you're just seeing like the good ones. Not everyone's that funny. If someone asks how far away something is, an American will tell how long it takes you to get there, as opposed to a physical distance. It's true, but isn't this? I think this is more helpful, right? Because at the end of the day, I'm asking that, right? Like, is it like too far away for me to go? So it's like if you tell me, oh, it's like 10 minutes away. It's like, well, okay, thank you. Like, I can definitely understand what's 10 minutes. But if I tell you, oh, it's like 3 blocks or 4 blocks, I know, but some blocks can be like, they're longer than others. So it's actually, I think, better if you end up telling me it takes you like half an hour walking or 5 minutes by car. Oh, great, thank you. That's definitely what I wanted to know. So I think that's a good thing. Maybe more Europeans or maybe other nationalities should do this, because I think at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? So, it's like, you should adapt that. I worked as a cashier in a touristic place in Paris. I always recognized Americans because they were kind of friendly to me, and they always left tips. Well, yes, because apparently like in Europe it's not normal to leave tips, so of course you would recognize them by that. But it's when they're friendlier, it's like, oh my god, it's like, how bad, like, or well, it's Paris, right? So maybe it's just like French people tend to be like not as nice. I was gonna say like rude, but maybe it's just like they're not that nice, which I think it's a bad thing. That's what I would say. British man once told me he knew I was American because I was wearing a baseball cap backwards. Do other nationalities do not do this either? That's crazy. My partner's Italian mother absolutely couldn't get over the idea of seeing people walk around holding coffees, especially iced coffee. Long coffees instead of espresso, it's weird enough, well, because they're Italian. But the idea of sitting at a cafe and not just like finishing your coffee before you leave, that's crazy to me. It's like, to me, it's the most normal thing in the world to just like walk around with your coffee, because it's like, well, I'm in a hurry. Like, I should be able to have my coffee, and not just espresso. Sometimes you're craving iced coffee, which again, you can have an iced coffee that's just like black coffee with ice. Like, you can do that. They're called brixes for a reason, but maybe an Italian person that would give them like, no, that's not a thing over there. Someone asked if I was American in a group setting, and someone spoke before me and said, "Of course, look at his teeth. Most Americans get braces." And I was like, well, oh, because she had good teeth, and well, they had good teeth, and it's like, well, people all over the world do not have good teeth because they don't get braces. We'd love to know the logic behind this. When they say Europe, and it could be anything from Venice to Doncaster, yeah. Well, that's true. Europe like can mean a lot of different things, and it's not the same thing. Like Romania is pretty different from England, so it's not the same. Drive from one shop by the next, even if it's like 50-meter wide bike walk. Yeah, like shouldn't you just walk? Maybe I don't know. Depends. Cruel socks. Oh, again, it's like these are killing me. The ones that are just like very like just one little thing, those are the ones that are killing me, because it's like, no, oh my god. Okay, yes, this was a really good compilation. I like the fact that I thought, and I mentioned it like there early on, that I was gonna be like, oh no, it's gonna be like bad things all over. No, but it was like, I think it was a good mix of a lot of like just no judgment observations, which I think is nice. It's like very neutral. It's like they do this, and it's like, wow, I hadn't noticed. And there are some others that were bad, of course, but there are others that are good. I think what I wanna like, it was like, well, that's a good thing, as a lot of them were very like encouraging in the sense of like they were very positive. Like you have a positive interaction, like they smile at you, and again, it's like they're friendlier, and I think that can be seen as encouraging. Although I think some people do not like that. They apparently have heard that they don't really like when you, like a lot of Europeans do not like when you're like smiling at them, or they're just like very positive for some reason. They don't really like that, which I think it's like, why wouldn't you like that? It's like, I'm giving you encouragement. Like, isn't it nice for you, like, someone smile at you? I think you're, like, making someone stay. Well, maybe I wouldn't go around and saying, like, you're making someone stay. But it's, like, it's nice to get a smile from a stranger. It's like, oh, it's approval. It's nice. It's like, well, okay, I feel better about myself. I don't know. Like, it's not necessarily a bad thing. So I wouldn't say, like, I don't know why you would hate it. That's, I think, my whole point. Because I think it's, like, a nice thing to do for strangers. And also, I think, like, the whole, being polite, saying like thank you, or being just friendlier to your, the people that are in some sort of capacity of service, like your waiter or your cashier. You should be nice to them, and you should be nice with people, like in general, like you're opening like a door or holding the elevator. Like those are just like random things that I think everyone should do, because it just, you're a good person, and you should like do more of those things. But apparently, like in Europe, a lot of those places do not, a lot of these cities and a lot of like these countries, it's frowned upon. Do not do that. They're gonna say, "Oh, it's an American," but it's like, "Oh well, I'm sorry. Like, sorry for trying to be nice. Like, oh, sorry, I'm trying to be your friend. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe I'm taking this like way too personal, and I shouldn't. And they're not saying it as a bad thing, but maybe more as a, wow, that's weird. But maybe it's like, well, maybe you guys should try to do more of this and be friendlier in general and less reserved. That's what I would say." Because again, it's like it creates for a positive like environment and a positive society. So I don't really know. The other things that were funny to me is like, again, the coffee situation. I feel a little bit called out by that one. The other, like the baseball caps, like backwards, that's just like a normal thing people do. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean anything like you're from this country in particular. Like, it's just like I'm wearing my baseball cap like backwards because of whatever. So it isn't necessarily, it doesn't have to do with anything. And again, I know you mentioned like the athleisure, like yes, a lot of like it is a very like American thing, but I'm willing to that there are some places in Europe where people actually dress more. But maybe it's not just people. They're the outliers. People like in their little, like in Florence, are gonna be like, why is this like Florence? This person like that lives here is dressed like that. With sneakers. I don't know. I feel a lot of these things. I feel are a little bit like. It just depends on the person, I would say, and it's not just like a generalization. But maybe it's just because they're observed, and that's the thing. Maybe that's why their comments are being read. It's because they've done their observation, and it's true. And I'm totally in the wrong here. But it's like, I don't know. I have to pay more attention in the future. That was it for today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.